everyone. It's Sarah from the Support Worker Store. Today, I've got Phuong with me. I finally got you on the air. Finally.
I'm
This has
really
been
not
like
that
2
proud
years
of
in the
that.
making. I'm
It
so
is.
excited. I was so excited when you said yes because we have been dancing in the same circles, but we've never actually caught up. So the fact that I've got you tonight, I know I'm feeling that too.
Love
I'm so
it.
happy. So I'm going to get straight into it. Can you tell everyone, because yeah, this is the way I am. I'm nosy as hell, but I like to get straight into the dish, the tea. Can you tell everyone who is watching about what is your business? What is it called? Tell me more, because I spread that energy this way.
I love it. I love it. I am Phuong, and everyone knows me mostly by Phuong, but we do have some nicknames floating around. There's Phui and Fushu, Phuong Star, Fufu, but Phuong is the main one. And I am the director, lead consultant, and also founder of Connect My Community Consultancy. And I have a wonderful managing director, Sam, as my business partner as well.
So, all right, you are spread a little bit everywhere. You're in Sydney.
Yeah,
Sam's,
a
is
little
she
bit
in
south
Melbourne?
of Sydney in
Oh, no,
Wollongong.
you both. Yep.
Yeah, don't want to be mixed up with those Sydney people. I'm very proud Wollongong girl.
There seems to be like a cult following in Wollongong. Is it just me or is everyone there? Like, am I missing something? Was there an invitation that went out and Wollongong was the place to be?
It is a really lovely place to live, and I don't see myself living anywhere else, so I could be a bit biased. But there is something really magical about the place when we're just this strip of beautiful world between beach and mountains, and it can be a little bit of a wind tunnel, and we get our fair share of natural disasters here too. But it's just a great place to live. And from an NDIS point of view, it is definitely a different dynamic or energy working in Wollongong. But I'm so blessed to work with clients all around the country, except for Tasmania. I'll get there one day.
Now, you have been called the compliance whisperer. What does that mean in simple words? Yeah, I deep dived your profile, don't you worry.
You did. I love it. Well, straight away, what compliance whisperer says to me is it's being Vietnamese is my cultural background and heritage. My parents came here after the war, so my first language growing up was Vietnamese. And then it wasn't until about year 3 of primary school that I was actually fluent enough in English. So I speak already bilingually English and Vietnamese. But what created the compliance whisperer part is that I actually worked in some roles that then taught me another language, which we call government. So government language, I translate, interpret, maybe simplify with some of my education background in a way that providers can then understand and then see the connection between the NDIS practice standards and quality indicators and what they do as a business, and then make those connections. So sometimes the whispering part too is advocacy or, explanations or simplifying, streamlining things. But yeah, just trying to make compliance accessible, I guess, to business owners who aren't familiar with it.
A little bit fun and easy English. It is so difficult to translate at times, and people's perception of what a passage means and what it actually means are two
Yes.
different things.
And the funny thing is sometimes it can intend to mean something to the NDIS greater powers of be, but then may look different on the front line in a participant's home to their carer and family. And so it's about understanding communication skills, language, using all the resources and knowledge and experience that, the amazing providers, their team and the local people bring to the services and supports.
So you know that I'm nosy, and you know that
Yeah,
I've
I love
really
it.
done a hell of a deep dive. And I think one thing that stood out for me is what you said. I'm quoting you now. You say that compliance should feel like a superhero's cape, not a straitjacket. Can you explain this to me?
Well, funnily enough, we used the term, and then I had a lovely young person not know what a straitjacket was, because thankfully they've like removed them from the healthcare now. So it's just like an older person thing.
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh.
Yeah, I know.
So
I
it was
refer to
kind
it,
of a
yeah, something like that. They're like, a what? Okay. So compliance and governance, or anything to do with following, certain frameworks and things like that, can often be scary, and people associate them with things like tests and exams and
Yeah.
policies, and getting in trouble and all these penalties and consequences. But we try to help providers see it, and it's the way I've always treated it, as a compliance is like an added part of being a superhero. So you could be a superhero with your superpowers and your skills and what is your unique or niche offering to the NDIS or to aged care or other community services. And then we help you understand that compliance is like that extra element of your superhero powers, which could be the cape, So the cape, with the cape, like in Doctor Strange, it helps him fly, it defends him, it even has a bit of a personality of its own, which we know NDIS can do sometimes. It's like compliance is this added extra element to what it is that you do in the space. So it's not to be feared, not to weigh you down, make you, stressed and overwhelmed. It's actually meant to be something that complements what you do.
So for me, wild that people are scared of auditing. Like there's like this fear mongering that goes along with it. How do you make people
Yes.
feel calm and safe when it's got such a negative tone to it?
It does, and it has awful stigma to it, because even the concept of auditing is like being tested or checked, or, brings back childhood memories of exams, or getting in trouble off the teacher or, caregiver or whatever. So a little of that fear becomes triggered from those sort of things. But the other thing too is, when a business is like your baby and you've given your heart and soul into it, you've made sacrifices, you've really gone out on this edge, this leap of faith. If someone's coming then to investigate what it is you do, and, look under the rocks and peel back the layers and want to see the ins and outs of your business, that can cause fear and concern and worry. Because if you're a genuinely, like you're providing a service that genuinely is high quality based on what you just know and from your experience, then the unknown is what the auditor brings. What else could they be looking for that I've missed? I've never had an audit before. This is the tester person coming who's going to test me. What have I missed? What have I not done good enough? And it starts, sometimes it is that media has really jumped on this opportunity to play into our fear, our worry, our anxiety, because you don't want to be caught. People genuinely are good people and don't want to do the wrong thing, and a lot of the times when the auditors do find something, they understand that you're human, and they're like, that's okay, let's just flag that, or we try and fix that up as soon as possible, or you just need to do it like this a little bit differently. So, I mean, I feel like maybe the media might blow it up a little bit and make it really rah, 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 with their stick and get in trouble and whatever with the negative stuff. But majority of people providing services and supports in the space are genuinely trying to do the right thing, and it's just lack of knowledge and experience that tends to be the things that get brought up. And that's why there are good consultants out there that can help you, but also people within the community help each other as well, which is great when it comes to, progressing with this journey that is registration and audit and all that.
Can I be that creepy person that says that they love auditing? Can I,
Not at all. Yes, not creepy
I
at all. There's
love
some
it.
people who love tests and exams and
So
the
hate,
adrenaline,
like
the
people hate.
dopamine, the oxytocin.
If
Yes,
I work a little bit
yes,
harder,
I love that. And if you're a real data nerd too, having numbers and figures and, like you said, benchmarks or milestones are a great way to reflect and look back on how far you've come. Some of the providers we've worked with for multiple years, and we've come back every 18 months doing an audit, it's an opportunity to reflect on how far they've come since last audit, and then sometimes if there's consistency with the auditor or the auditing company, you can build that story there as well as go, oh, wow, I remember when you started with 5 participants, and now you've got 30, and now you've got 150. It's like, yeah, this is great. And all those foundational systems you had have grown and scaled with you because you've gone about it in a way that's manageable, that makes sense, that also, contributes to the story and the wisdom that you can share as well back into the community. So that's what really excites me when I get to journey alongside some of these incredible providers in the space.
That would be really fulfilling coming, like, especially where you've started. And as your
Yes,
business, as it's grown to where your business has grown alongside other businesses and you see them grow
yes,
through the auditing
yes.
process, that's kind of cool.
I know. It was this big scary step for me going out on my own as a sole trader with my first ever ABN on the 1st of July 2019. I'm like, I'm going to do this. And, stepping out, and some of the providers that I started with in my early days were sole traders with the little ABN themselves. And so we journey alongside each other, and now they're doing their thing and I'm doing my thing. I've got a team, they've got a team. We're bouncing things back off each other, and the highs and lows are shared. And, it's just amazing doing life alongside your people. I love that we attract also our people. Like, you're part of that, Sarah, like you find the people who are your people that you want to be part of the community with, support each other, share stories, through the ups and downs, because it's not a space that is for the lighthearted. You don't enter NDIS because you want it easy. Easy ride.
What do you mean? That's what they say.
Yes, if you talk to certain people, you might get that story. I'm not going to, say I don't know any people like that. They're not my people. I mean, it might be direct, and I've been told I'm direct sometimes, but there are some people in the space, a percentage that the media like to also focus on that are about, the elements of the NDIS that are, what's the word for it? Not great. So
Look, I believe that you always get caught. So you might as well do the right thing to begin with. And you don't have to have that worry or that lurk behind your back.
Exactly. And if anything, from the years of working in, federal government level positions, as well as state and local, but yeah, you're exactly right, Sarah. They catch up with you eventually. Everything always gets there eventually, like the things that you put in and you invest and you pursue always come back. And some believe, come back at you double or triple the impact. So if you want to, what's that saying? Well, like, you reap what you sow. If you want to sow, not nice things, then you might be reaping
I look
triple
at
the
it
not
as
nice
this.
things.
One of my favorite sayings is that karma knows where you live.
Yes, that's a good one.
Yep, it does. And it has no end date either. So it
Yeah.
does.
And I know that some people have short-term goals or ideas that is like just for the next 6 months, year, or few years. But I don't think that comes from maybe not realizing that the impact you can have on someone's life, even though your goal or vision or milestones are only 6 months away, can be lifelong, and really take that on and think about what it is you're doing. It's actually a privilege and an honor to serve and support people in the community. And you can't go into that lightheartedly. If you're going to provide, someone personal care in their home, that's lifelong impact you're having there in a very vulnerable place and position. Lots of trust, and yeah, it's not something we should take lightly.
Not something we should cheapen.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. You talk about turning legal talk into love. What does that look like in real life? Am I about to witness some Sex in the City? I'll get comfy.
I even heard another term for it, actually, legalese, is there are terms, and we go back to the translating and interpreting. There are sometimes in the practice standards and the quality indicators, or even in the process itself, can feel very official and, corporate and black and white, and, with its, no room to move or adjust or be natural or human or inclusive include emotion, but we're working with people, and we're working with vulnerable people, and we're working with providers who are heart-led and person-centered. So those expectations, I guess, are really difficult to bring up alongside what is essentially the opposite of who providers are in their communities and the work they do. So we try then to almost take the legalese and the black and white and the firmness of some of that, and then like Play-Doh or clay, kind of just soften it and mold it a little bit, but with love. So we're not, when I work with providers or work with any of the business owners that we work with, actually even outside of NDIS, I try to add compassion and non-judgment, and there's no such thing as silly questions, and that's the love element. It's like, I'm happy for you to just come as you, where you're at, what you know and what experience you have, and then you tell me or you ask what it is I can help you with, and there's no judgment, and we can just work this out together. And some people are like, oh, how does that provider over there do that? And that provider over there looks so impressive. And it's like, well, that's great for them, but if we're here about you, and this is the goal that we're working towards, be it a registration or audit, and we can do this together, and we can do it compassionately, we can do it gently, we can do it naturally, and, be empowering about that as well. Be very intimidating sometimes going into a big test like an audit. So let's focus on some of the positive things that it is that you do really well. And let's mention those things to the auditor, and let's share some of the stories that in legal talk is evidence, but we don't call it that. We call it your stories. Let's share some of your stories of your clients and how much they love what you do with them. So that's the legal with love.
You just got me, like, my mind's just pinged. How many times people haven't started a business that they could be absolutely fantastic, but they haven't started because the idea of auditing scares the living bejesus out of them?
That's really interesting.
Because
yeah, sorry. I'm going to take you back to a statistic I saw on LinkedIn, how less than 10% of currently active providers in the space are registered. So if you take that into sort of the understanding of how large and varied the space is across the country, you can't think of just what does NDIS look like in Sydney or in Wollongong, and that's what it looks like in Queensland or Victoria or, Western Australia. It's so different everywhere. And so if someone's going to go into the registration and audit process, sometimes what people underestimate are the elements of it that are different based on where you're located, the distribution of your participants and their funding, the different state rules and local rules that will dictate how your process looks like. When it comes to some of the systems that you need around your compliance, sometimes, internet may be an issue. Sometimes people's literacy skills or language skills may be challenges depending on where you're located. Some of the providers we work with work in Indigenous areas, and the challenges that come with that. How do we meet the compliance of the NDIS who's sitting comfortably in a corporate office, with endless internet and all the air conditioning, and then there's a provider over here just trying to get a service agreement signed. Like, the contrast is it can be really difficult sometimes what registration and audit looks like to different providers. And so as a consultant, we try to help find that middle ground so that everyone's happy.
Can you share what made you start CMC Consultancy Group?
Okay. What made us start?
Yeah.
The CMC Consultancy Group part technically started in October last year. So that's still, I guess, relatively new in that we're coming up on our 1-year anniversary. But Sam and I had been working together for a couple of years before that. So before Connect My Community was just my little show, but I brought Sam on to work with me, and then we worked so great together, and multiple clients and community on her clients and my clients both kept saying what a great team we were and how much we complemented each other's skills. And I felt like, I don't know, I just found my business bestie. I know you talked about that with Jack. And I'm like, what better way to do more life with your business bestie than to business marry them? We got business married, and she had team and I had team. And so our team become business step siblings, and it was it was really interesting because I mean we use those analogies, but I'm very happily divorced, so it was kind of like a bit of a giggle that I'm like I'm still not married, you know, like married, just business married. But yeah, ever since we've come together, that has been an incredible journey because I really focused on NDIS providers. But when Sam came in and we made the company, that gave us the ability then to expand out into aged care and other consultants that we support in the corporate space. There's coaches and other service providers in other industries. So we now have clients not just in NDIS in our community, even though they're still the majority, but we get the opportunity to use these transferable skills that we both have in other areas for other people. And then we get providers go, oh, I could do aged care as well. And they'll be like, oh, we've got the ability to help you with that. Because before I didn't do aged care because NDIS was just such a task on its own. And my brain was like, okay, I can stay on top of one industry and its laws and changes and expectations, but then to bring a second one in, I'm like, too much. So I made the call to not do aged care, but thankfully Sam has come from a very long history of aged care work. So together we're like, yay, we can do it now. So yay.
How did you meet?
This is where the rainbows come in.
All right.
There used to be there used to be a women's business networking group that no longer runs, but back then it was She Will Shine, who was run by an amazing woman named Danielle. And I went to the She Will Shine directory of people, and I had a really specific skill set of a person that I was looking for. But what actually won me to Sam was the fact that her photo and her description was all about sparkle and rainbows. She had bright red hair with this bright red lippy and this really, you know, brightly colored clothes, which is all Sam. Like if you see her, she's very bold and colorful and loud. And I was like, I love rainbows, especially coming out, you know, recently coming out a few years ago myself in that own journey. So rainbows to me just was really affirming. So I was like, I have to work with this woman because she has the right energy that connects with me. So that's how I found her on a directory of networking women.
Well, I take it she said, yeah, I wouldn't mind talking to you.
Yeah. I've booked in for her free consult. You know how everyone has those initial free consults, and my name's Phuong, I'm from Wollongong, and I like rainbows too. And then we just hit it off.
It works. You're still here 6 years later.
And my goodness, with her support, I have really come into my fabulousness. I think I had too many nesses there. But yeah, I started wearing more color. I started dopamine dressing more, wear tutus to networking events. And I'm just like, bring it. This is me now.
I was literally talking about this the other night. I just love color in general. I'll wear it, big white shiny boots because I'm really
I
jealous.
love it. Yes.
Love
And that's
colour.
why we vibe. That's why we vibe. Yeah.
I didn't realize that I went to this networking event. Now, you know you're from Melbourne because we wear a lot of black there, yeah? So I turned up and I realized, oh, like I kept getting compliments like, oh, you're quite colorful. I was like, oh, okay.
I get
You know,
that one everywhere I go.
I didn't
I often walk
realize.
into a room that's like majority grey, black, white, you know, sort of like more simple colours, and then here's Phuong's here. Oh, it's just like ta-da!
It's not even on purpose. Like, you know, some people like, yeah, you've got a set thing to be on brand and all that stuff. I'm like, oh, shivers. I'm just wearing this because I really like color and I really like pops and I can't do bland stuff. And that's just
Yes.
me. I think, yeah. And, you know,
I love that, Sarah, and I think more women in business need to do that. Can I just say, more women in business just need to show up as they are, who they are, however they want.
and be comfortable
You know?
in it because it was so funny because I was talking about this. I'm like, why is it such a big thing? Like I didn't like I was, you know, trying to debrief with my girlfriends. Like I don't get it. Like why is it such a big thing to wear color to a networking event? Like the aim was never to stand out. It was just to being Sarah.
As a bonus.
It was it was an unofficial bonus that I didn't plan nor did I foresee was a thing. So it made me think, I'm like, oh gosh, you know, we're a sector that works with people. I thought color
Yes.
was quite a, part of the gig because, color is vibes. It makes how people feel when they meet you.
Yes, yes. And I think sometimes because we're working with government funding in a community health service space, it can sometimes get blurred in the lines of corporate and business and the medical space and all those serious things, and serious means no colour, but we're here to change that.
As
It's
you are.
long ago a society that thought that way, where we're shaking it up, and I feel like I am seeing more of that. I'm seeing the women turn up in red, like I'm here in all my redness, or in pink, like your beautiful dress. I went to something the other day and the one woman, it wasn't like as rainbow and fabulous as my boofy tutu, but it was still this gorgeous long tulle skirt of like a maroon color that just like was so gorgeous on her. And I was like, yes, we need more of that. And then I looked around and there was like no one in heels because we all wear flats now. And I'm like, yes. And I used to work in a corporate office where the dress code was heels, and that's changing. I love that.
Yes, but then I tried to scale it back. I was like, oh, is it because that I've worked with a lot of people? So I need to be able to make sure that I'm approachable, that people can
Yeah.
come to me and say, hey, Sarah, X, Y, and Z, in that type of support. Being a support worker really is, I sort of wonder,
Yeah.
like, have I just brought it across to business because I've always done it, and I think it was because it was to do with comfort and making people feel comfortable. I don't know.
Maybe.
I think it might be that.
And look, when we're in our learning stages, so this is my teacher hat coming on, but when we are in our learning stages and we're still building our confidence career-wise or professionally or even as a leader or role model, sometimes that uncertainty or that imposter syndrome or that, that desire to fit in can sometimes be an influence, or even like a tiny bit of the thought that that's the expectation or that's what we're meant to do because we're supposed to be like that. But I feel like when I look around my community of not just clients but just people we're connected with and that we work alongside, a big part of their personality is the energy they have in the way that they show up. And that's why I love the arts and I love the creative space, especially people who live with disability and how they express themselves creatively really says to me that the way you show up in your clothes, your accessories, the way you interact and share with the world is part of your art as well, and that can be fun. And it can make a statement and it can, even just, I don't know, like impact someone's day. Just the fact that you walk past them looking the way you did. Yes, let's do that.
I said this because I got had somebody like, why do you do that? And then like the little smart ass Sarah in me is like, well, you know what? I'm going to spend more time dead than I am alive, so I'm going to be very alive.
Yes, I love that. That is so awesome. And what a life is so short. And I'm only realizing that because my eldest daughter is turning 16 next week. And I'm like, 16? I'm not right. I'm the mother of a 16-year-old. Oh my gosh, where's that time gone? And I'm sure every mother says that, but
Got to do a bit with age and self acceptance. We don't all have to fit in. It's okay. The thing,
I'm on the perimenopause train,
yep,
and you just
pre-puger.
have a lot less F's to give. That's what it is. Am I allowed to say that on this podcast?
Right.
I don't give a beep. Yeah, I'm over 35 or over 40s. I've been told as you get older, it gets better, like in terms of the less beeps you give.
Well, why we're giving less pubes? You've seen some businesses crumble under pressure. How do you, like, there's only so much you can do, really, as a consultant. Yep,
Mhm.
you can only do so much. You can lead a horse to water. But is
Yes.
there anything that, like, steps that you put into place before somebody calls it a day?
Look, I'll share from personal experience that we have worked with providers that life has happened and they've decided to either wind it down or call it. And as a consultant that is alongside the journey that is the up and down of being in this really difficult space where there is so much grey, and sometimes life happens outside of work or outside of business, or, things happen with participants that you can't prepare or predict. that are your clients that, one day could be 24/7 and then the next day pass, And so those sort of sudden changes can be hard for a business owner when you're in a sector where the margins are so slim and you want to be a good provider or employer and maybe pay extra for your outstanding staff, or you want to contribute to charities and not-for-profits and causes that speak to your heart. But then that means that's less for you to try and live off sometimes. So we have actually worked with providers that have wound down or closed, and there are wise and good ways to do that. A big part is how we help some of our clients transition their participants to like providers in terms of values, energy, age even, and culture awareness. We try and do the research to make sure that every single participant is transitioned, well, and handed over well with the right information, documentation, and all of that. Some of the work we do with providers as well is in their systems, because it is actually possible to sell a business and someone else buy it. So we've helped with that handover as a consultancy, and we said, look, let's get this stuff looking awesome. So then when you sell, that looks really good. And then actually when the buyer comes in and takes over, we can help with some of that handover as well. And that the smoother that is, the less stressful that is. And then providers that have wound down and they're like, oh, we used to do 100 clients. Now we just want 30 and that's it, and that's great. Let's do that. Let's wind it down and cut off all the bits that are actually not important anymore. You used to pay $1,000 for that software a month. Let's look at this one that's actually cheaper, smaller, and really easy for you to transition over to, because you're just going to work small now. So they're the sort of things that we help our clients with.
So is it more common now than ever before because of all the changes that's occurring?
That's a good question. It depends on the service and support you're providing. So I know that a lot of posts on LinkedIn have talked about the decline in support coordination as a result of, cuts in funding and the uncertainty of the future of the space with the discussion around the navigator model and blah, blah, blah. Look, I feel like there's the skill set that support coordinators have in supporting their participants will always be needed. What that looks like and how that gets paid for is what's changing. So the businesses that I think might not have had things in place to sort of be flexible and be able to adapt with these changes and adjustments struggled more and maybe made the decision to downsize or close than those that were like, look, it's already such an unstable space. We've got factors that are just flexible and adaptable to that so that we can see out this time and be ready for whenever they announce whatever changes. As you know, in government, everything takes forever and a day to actually happen. But when it does happen, it happens. So I think that's what it is. Like it is hard sometimes when there's providers that do multiple services, and then we've had to help them make the decision maybe for your future sustainability and the ability to continue for your specific community or cohort of participants. We look at adjusting some of these other services or supports and focus on the ones that you can maintain.
It's not a decision that they make straight away. It's something that I feel like it builds up over time. Like it's not something
It
they go, right,
does.
I'm out, I'm done, I'm gone.
Yeah,
There's more
yeah,
to it. It does feel like a build up. But even
yeah.
when you're like, it's so funny. I was talking to I'll call them a high achiever. I
Yes,
was,
we
I
love
was
those people.
they were talking about how they had such a big business model, and one day I was like, nah, I'm out. This is too much. And then winding it down, when they wound it down to a participant pool that was, safe and
Um,
within reach to manage,
mhm,
then they're like,
mhm.
oh, I still got that itch to grow. And it's like, oh, like, like it's such it's like describing it as like a wave. Like they're just
It
riding
is.
this wave, but it was also the grief of
Yes,
winding it down. It
it
wasn't a
is.
fail. It was just, I need to wind
I
it down for
know.
my family and for where I am in life.
Exactly. And I think we underestimate the emotional toll it takes having a business in this space. There's compartmentalizing, and I'm all about compartmentalizing to a point. But yes, the grieving of the business and of the sacrifices of the
Mm.
participants and their families and stories. There's also, the compassion fatigue. that comes with constantly giving, but not making sure you do the self-care that refills you as well. And a lot of the people who have family or caring situations or even just life happening outside of the business, that has overflow effect into how you show up for your business, how you lead, how you role model, and how you even make decisions, within the business. And, I'm not saying that in the NDIS you make one decision and the whole house of cards tumbles, but I find that if you just rush things without the research, or you're not talking to people, you're not going to that support network that, your business besties, like that sort of advice and gathering of good quality information, then you're not doing your business and your community the service that they deserve. And especially if you're a high quality provider, high quality providers make every decision with intention, like with real consideration and time and thoughtfulness. I don't think you could be a high quality provider in the space if you're very, I don't know, flippant and not care and,
I feel like
spur of the moment.
you have to be very structured.
Yes, structure is a good word.
Yep,
Yes.
because it
And
doesn't
also,
just happen. Because if you're talking, it's
exactly,
just not just high quality; it's high care and high support. It's from
exactly.
see, support workers do more. It's more grassroots, so it's getting down to that
Yes.
bottom part there and making sure that the way that it comes and the way that
Yeah,
it churns itself up, it makes sense
exactly.
across the board. Really, because so off script here, but I look at it like when you look at a pyramid, right?
Yes.
And then if you flip it, and that's what I like to flip it in businesses, where
Yeah,
our
that's good. I
participants are
love
on top,
flipping stuff.
then our
Yep.
support workers, then our managers,
Yes.
and everybody,
Yes.
all the boring ones are up top, yeah?
Yeah.
I,
Yep.
you know.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
They're not
I know
having
what
as
you mean.
much
I
fun
speak
as me,
your
let's be
language.
honest.
I speak your language. What I love about support work though, Sarah, is that support workers are so generous in their knowledge sharing and resource sharing and advice, but also being mindful that what might have worked for provider or person over here doesn't necessarily mean or guarantee it's going to work for you. It's good to collect those ideas and take information or advice with a grain of salt, but really tuning into your intuition and your gut and what is it that is your own path to walk, that is so important. The number of times I've had people call me up and go, oh, this provider over here is doing this. Do you think we should do that? I'm like, do you really want to or see yourself doing that? Is that suitable for your community? Like, could you see your team doing that? Like asking yourself those questions. And it's like, oh, yeah, actually,
Yeah.
and taking that time. So intuition's very important.
And doing one job well and properly to begin with,
Yes.
and then expanding itself out. I do every now and again with the support workers, so people slide in and out. And one of the questions, oh, should I expand here? I was like, stop. Yeah, I did. One moment. If you can do one, and I mean like get one person that you provide care to really well, and then
Yes.
slowly expand yourself out of that suburb without getting thinking that you're going to be everywhere and everywhere.
Yes.
Because I'll give you my trade secret. I'm giving it to you. Ready? I find that
Okay.
it is a giant ick when someone says to me, we provide care to the whole of Victoria. And in my head, what I go is, you provide crap or average care to
Yes.
everybody in Victoria because it's not person centered, because you're just everywhere. I don't think you
Exactly.
can be a good
The
provider if you're
spread
everywhere.
too thin. Yeah, exactly. You can't do quality thinly.
I don't
Is
want
that
to.
even a sentence?
You don't. You don't really want to be known for that either, because you want to be
Yeah.
if you want to be out there selling a business, you want to be known as a provider that provides really good, high quality. Because I can guarantee you don't really need
Mm.
marketing, because word of mouth goes further.
Exactly. And that's where organic growth is the strongest and most solid
Hmm.
type of growth for any provider. And look, we do help some clients with marketing, branding, values, language, that sort of general stuff, so that when a participant wants to do an online stalk of a potential new provider, that you've got that information there. Maybe stalk's not the right word.
Deep
Online
dive. We're
research.
deep diving.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Deep dive of that provider before they do that engage or contact call. That's really important to have. But I think what, like you said, works amazingly is that word of mouth, because who else would person who lives with disability want to listen to than other people that live with disability as well. And if they have had an amazing service or support from someone, they're going to tell the people that they care for, love, trust, or want the best life for, that they get this service and support from this person. So you should too, because I genuinely care about you. I would not be going to the people I don't like and say, you should work with this really bad provider. I mean, who does that?
I still think that they're like, oh, the NDIS is quite big. I'm like, actually, you know what? The NDIS as a collective, as an environment, is actually quite small. So
Yes.
if you're going to put yourself out there as an organization, you want to get a really good reputation, because when working even in small rural towns, they talk.
Yeah. Oh, yes, they do. Yes, they do. As an ex-cafe worker that used to be on the machine, like the coffee machine, and how particular my boss was about who was on the machine, word spread far and wide which barista was on the coffee machine. And there were certain people that they would be like, yeah, I'm coming for a coffee because I know that person's on the machine. In Wollongong, if you've got a bad provider and your reputation is for poor service, it spreads like wildfire. Now, Sydney may be a little different. Melbourne City may be a little different. Rural, regional, again, maybe a little different. But then some of the clients we support are literally the only provider. So participants have no other choice. And that can be hard too, because choice and control then is not an empowered ability for the participant that has been given these funds after the grueling process that is applying for it in the first place. And then you go out into the market and there's literally only one provider you can choose from. And if it's a super large organization provider, you're like, where's the choice and control? So hence why a real passion of mine is working with those small providers, even with the sole traders, even with the community orientated ones, because we want to try and keep them in there.
I do. You know why I love them? Is because small providers can do things that big providers can't do. And it's that personal touch. And it's the person that, you know what, something's gone bump in the night. The person I call is actually the business owner. And here I'm going to talk to Frank, Harry, and Sally to make sure I've got somebody for the next morning. Where I find the bigger the provider, the more processes in place, the harder it is to get what you need. So it's like more red tape.
Exactly. As that pyramid grows, that's flipped back the other way.
Yeah.
And the bigger the base gets, then the person at the top doesn't even know names and people become numbers.
Yeah.
And I worked in an organization like that. And one of the first promises I made to myself is I am never, ever going to let myself get so big that I do not know the name and story of every single one of my clients. And I'm so proud to say that we're still at that size where I know every single client we help, their story, their business. Now, true, I don't know the names of all their team or all their managers or
Why
all
don't
their
you know
participants.
100 of them? Jeez.
I'm like, ugh, like for an ex-high school teacher, you used to struggle with just 30 kids in the class. I'm like, but no, I do go out of my way to make sure that every client that we work with, I know their name and story at least. And if we ever got to the point where I don't know that, I'm like, that's too big.
Yeah. That's your guider, isn't it?
Yeah.
You talk a lot about trust and the human connection. Why do you think that trust and human connection in this sector is probably number one?
Well, that's an excellent question, actually, Sarah, because I think when you take the average human being who has tried to navigate any sort of government process in their life, trust and being treated like a human is not the first two things that come to mind when you think about government processes. Do I trust this system and this process? Do I feel like I'm being treated as a human? And so I really value bringing or helping people see, or at least raising awareness of the fact that the NDIS is still such a young space that we can instill these elements into this sector in a way that has more influence and impact than any other government scheme that has gone before it. I think, like I often use the analogy of, imagine the NDIS is like a child that's just turned 10 and they're still young and able to be molded. Their mind is still developing. And, they're maybe a bit clumsy and awkward in their body, but they're still young, and has opportunity to be about trust, to be human orientated and connected, and about community and about relationships. Now, if you look at a scheme like Medicare or Centrelink, they have been around so long. They're full grown adults, maybe even close to retirement. There's no changing them. They've become disconnected to the human element. You can't really trust them. Sure, there's some elements of it that runs smoothly and well, but it's not perfect. It's an imperfect system, and people have just accepted that. NDIS has chance, has opportunity. They're still holding focus groups and interview groups and surveys and getting feedback. We can actually influence what the NDIS looks like in 10 years' time because it's still young.
We still have a say. I think that's the part that I find really hard when I speak to people. I'm like, oh, but you feel this way. Did you submit? Did you submit how your feelings are? Did you do that? Did you do that focus group? No.
And look, I always encourage people to put it in the system. The system, even though like fraud reports is a big one, we often have people ring me up, go, should I report it? Always report any thought like you think or indication or worry or concern, even if it's just a little bit, like you're like, yeah, just do it just to be safe. Because if it's in the system, then it may be part of a bigger, collection of evidence later on down the track.
Also, it is collecting each, and you shouldn't be afraid to do it.
Yes, and it's not hard to do. They've actually made it very easy to just send an email to a certain email address. You can remain anonymous. There are anonymous options as well if you go to the right pages. And so I am a big advocate for get the information in the system. And, we've actually had some really pleasant surprise. I wouldn't say they're surprise, but fast to respond interactions from the NDIS to some reports that my clients have put through. There are genuinely people on the other side wanting to help and do the job well, and actually, build a good system and work with quality providers. They're not all, I don't know, like evil corporates behind a computer going, rah, there's actually genuinely good people on the other side.
I heard they're all bots.
Trying to do a good job. Are they? We're a little bit closer to Skynet. Oh wait, that's a reference of my age. Sorry.
That's okay. I'm Sarah Harriet, not Sarah Connor. Please leave me alone.
Yeah. You must get that all the time, right? Is your son named John?
So you've been doing this now for 6 years. And
yes, over 6 years. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Has it compliance changed much in the time that you've started with your business?
What's that saying? How long is a piece of string? I think that's what compliance is like. Look, the practice standards and quality indicators that we still go to registration and audit today are still the version from November 2021. So if we get back to that element, no, it hasn't changed in about 4 years. But look, there is a new version that's supposed to come out soonish, maybe this November, when we're talking about the practice standards and quality indicators. Now, what I have seen change a lot over the 6 years is the way auditing companies and auditors do registration audits for NDIS providers. That part is really interesting. And so what I have noticed I've had to do more often is actually wear the hat of what I'd self-titled myself as the provider advocate. So just like how participants have advocates, I'm like a provider advocate, because the auditors sometimes don't quite do the appropriate audit for the size and scope of the business, because they may not even understand the rules of the state or territory that they're auditing. They sometimes don't understand the community and the demographic that provider works with. Sometimes they don't even understand the services that provider offers. So that's where, as a consultant, I very gently, with love, bring the legal love, and say, look, can you just maybe clarify why you're asking for that, or why you want that to be like that? Or can you refer to the practice standard or indicator that you are using to assess this aside? And so just sort of, gentle questions of, come on, because I think without that advocacy, a provider will just stress out and be like, oh, I'll do whatever you say, and they'll go jump off a cliff and close down your business, then they'll go do it. And it's just like, no, don't. So yes, that's what I've probably seen change. And so the positive thing is there's been some some auditing companies that I will return to out of the pure fact that they have taken on my feedback. They have implemented changes to the way that their auditors audit NDIS providers. And so I build good rapport and relationship. I absolutely do not accept any rewards or gifts or commissions or anything like that from anyone. No, seriously.
No, I know you're just staring because there are people out there that do that.
I guarantee you I've had many, many offer. Straight away they get blacklisted as soon as they do.
It gives you that icky, like that ickiness,
Yes.
like it, yeah, nah.
I will not compromise the integrity of the work that not only that we do as a business, but as the providers do as well. And for full transparency, we can't be muddying the waters of a quality audit either. So I don't want any bias or, things like that. But then being an advocate for the provider, we sometimes have had some of the clients jokingly call me Tiger Phuong because they see this rainbow, bubbly, sparkly person. And then on audit day, Phuong's all about the audit and Tiger Phuong comes out and she's advocating for her providers. Yeah. Ask anyone who's been through audit with me what Tiger Phuong's like.
You know your shit, yeah, and then it just becomes like a routine of what coming in, yeah. So it's like you've got a mode.
It's not only do I know my shit, I know my wee and my blood and all the bodily fluids. I know it all. So yeah, I love what I do and I am very passionate about it to the point where I will, stand my ground about what I believe is the right thing to do.
So can you do some convincing now? You ready? I need you to convince members of the audience. Some providers think that compliancy it's just paperwork. What would you have to say to them?
I would compare it to saying ice cream is just milk.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It's like, oh, who doesn't like ice cream, right? But just all the flavors that it comes in. And not everyone likes every flavor, but there's some people that like this flavor and mix it with this flavor. We want to try a new flavor. There's people that try a different flavor every time. Compliance to me is so personal about the business, the service, the community, the service they're providing, the community they're in, the demographic of their participants, the skills and knowledge of the business owner, the amazing mix of team that they bring into their business, and then the governance structure or funding model that they're working with. So some providers or business owners are working with multiple funding models. So compliance for each of those funding models looks different. So it's not just paperwork. It's about communication, relationship, integrity and transparency. What's the other word when we're talking about finances as well? Money, finance, profit, as well as assets and all those sort of things is a whole nother skill set. And it's more than just paperwork. Like paperwork is almost like reducing the northern lights, down to the LED lights you get at the $2 store. It's like, oh no, it's so much more than that, so much richer, so much more alive, so much more personality even, I could say. And so if we're even just talking about the NDIS and using the ice cream analogy, it's like, when you walk into a gelatissimo, you think, oh, this is just going to be gelatos. Oh, well, no, sorbets, and there's like dairy free and there's gluten free now. And I think last time I went, there was even one with extra protein, so when you think about compliance, it's like that provider over there may have an amazing governance system around their organization, and that's awesome for them. But these guys over here actually might have a really great transition system or process, and they could probably share that with each other and make each other great providers, So that's what compliance is about for me.
You make it sound fun, to be honest.
Thank you. Well, I do love it. I do love it. And being creative in the ways that we make compliance manageable and understandable for each and every one of our clients. So I proudly say that no two clients that we work with, we treat the same, because then no two business owners are the same. So one business owner may love that I send them a policies and procedures of 300 plus documents and I'll smash that out over a weekend. But another provider over here is like, okay, I need you to just send me one section a week and I'm going to walk through that and then ask you a bunch of questions and then you send me the next one. So we customize and personalize to each and every one of our clients that we work with. So compliance then, to me, in how I work with them in that area, looks different, and I have to be creative to make it exciting and relatable.
So what do you reckon is the biggest fear many providers have?
In general, about life or about compliance?
Compliance.
Going poor and be homeless and lose all that.
That was a really deep question.
It's like, oh, what's that meaning of life? 42. So their biggest fear, I think, look, if genuine quality providers do worry that they're missing something that they're going to get in trouble for, and that, I don't think there's like NDIS police as such going about wanting to shut down businesses. It's more just like, you've done something that's not so great. Let's stop that. Now, what we see and hear about a lot in the media are the ones that are really deliberately doing something wrong and they get busted out and all that happens. That's fine.
Caught.
Yes, I think, to be honest, right on the ground level, and that's where I think being a consultant has been a real privilege in some ways, because you have to be very emotionally mature when someone has given and sacrificed so much for their participants, their community, their team, and everyone else around them except themselves, the business owner, that they burn out.
They do. Yep, 100%.
They do.
It's so easy.
And burnout is one of the common, I guess, things that I see as a consultant, because it's in that desperation that they're like, I just need help, or I'm going to give it up or throw it in. Support, having good support networks is so important and key at this time. So to answer your question, what is it that providers fear? Just like to say simply, it's just not doing it well or right. Like, to be sustainable, to be profitable, or even be able to scale and grow healthily.
Or feel good enough is one of the ones that I saw. Like,
And feel like
am I
and
enough?
that it's right. Yeah, I know, because it does. One of the things that owning a business does is like opens you up to all your vulnerabilities to be tested and confronted.
It's a mindfuck.
If you want the fastest track to self-awareness and doing the work, start a business, because every single one of those insecurities and struggles and childhood trauma and everything is going to be all brought to the surface, yes, when you start a business.
And then you're like, now I'm going to deal with it.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's what happens, is that fear is, what is this test going to bring up in me? And how will that then flow down and affect my team, my community, my participants, And and burnout is awful in this space, because the heart is there, the intention's there, the genuine effort, but you're only human at the end of the day. You're not expected to be
everything. It's
for everyone.
Burnout really sucks. I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah.
It whacks you really hard. And then
It does.
And I wouldn't recommend burnout. So do all the right things by yourself and your well-being.
The
Get
most
yourself a
empowering.
consultant.
Yes. Well, I was going to say the most empowering thing you can do is know where your boundaries are, what to say no to, what to call like your capacity, knowing your capacity and your limits. And this is actually something we do for one of our clients, where we literally check in with her on a daily basis. We're like, what is your day? What's your plan today? Is that like a wise and balanced and healthy plan for the day? Are those goals or tasks achievable in one day, or have you written a task of 20 things that aren't actually achievable in one day? So that kind of accountability is really important, because I think some providers think that they're superhuman and can, do a billion things, when in fact, like, you might be able to do that in ebbs and flows, depending how neurosparkly you are. But I think that, if we're real with ourselves and we're honest with ourselves and we're doing that self-care and that reflection, then you need to be able to know your limits, know your boundaries, and say no.
We touched on this briefly before, but I think I already know the answer. We're going to ask the question.
Okay.
what is the big dream for your business and what's next for the next few years?
That is a good question. And yes, we did touch on it. I'm loving this organic growth that we're experiencing at the moment purely by word of mouth. And you know, referrals like yours are spot on in that it's a energy connection vibe, you know, sort of thing that, and there are clients that will sometimes get as far as, you know, even starting with us, you know, and then within the first 3 months, we all conducively agree, okay, it's not working. We're not exactly what it is that you want. And the beauty of the consultants that I refer some people onto who I feel are a better fit as well, that it's a beautiful supportive community. And so I would love to see more collaboration and support and genuine, you know, care for each other in this space than that competitive cutthroat, you know, every man dog for themselves, you know, and it just become this really vicious apocalypse end of days kind of nasty situation. I would hate NDIS to become that. So I would like to be a part of the NDIS becoming a really thriving community space that is about collaboration and friendship, relationship, you know, genuinely supporting quality providers.
It's kind of funny when you touch on yes, I have referred people to you, but it's
Was I not meant to talk
no,
about
it's
it?
fine because
Sorry.
no, because there's a multiple of people that I follow that are consultants, and it's when I chat and I talk to this person who I think would suit who. And the
Yes,
thing is, when I do it, it's because I like known and trusted. So then I was like, right, I feel like I've got this. We just before this podcast talked, we talked
yeah,
about somebody else before
yeah,
we
yeah, yeah.
pressed the start button. It's because that person gave me a certain like energy and vibe when I was talking about, right, you go here, you go over
Yes,
there, and you go left, right, and center. And that's
yes.
purely because of the vibe that I got from a person. Because also, when I'm doing a referral, it's also on my business as well, because I was
Oh,
the person
definitely.
that put that person
Yes,
forward. So it
yes.
is in my best intentions to refer properly to begin
Well,
with. And
yeah,
well, yeah,
referring properly and well and knowing
yeah.
your network that well that it's a confident referral. And I know we actually did a like a little sort of workshopy thing around consent, and we talked about enthusiastic consent, you know, when it comes to relationships and body autonomy and things like that. And I sort of think of it like that in the relationships that you have professionally in the NDIS space, that I want to enthusiastically refer or connect or introduce people. And something that, you know, if we talk to some people in my community, when I do an intro via email, it's like my opportunity to talk both those people up in the sparkly way that I write emails. And it's sad sometimes when I get emails in AI because I'm like, they're missing my sparkle in that email. Like I could so tell a robot wrote that. But when I do an intro, you know I've done the intro because I'm all like, this person is all this, and they're so amazing at this. And then this person, I'd like you to meet. This is and they're like, wow, thanks for the intro for the talk up. And I'm like, my pleasure.
It really doesn't cost that much. Like when it comes to referring, like it doesn't cost that much when it comes to time and effort. It's just something that you
Yeah.
naturally know, and you know that's going to be a good fit. So you push it towards that, because at the end of the day, you don't want to
You
waste
know what
people's
it is,
time.
Sarah? It's like matchmaking. That's what it is.
We will talk about
It's like
50 Matchy after
NDIS
this, mate.
loves matchmaking. Yeah. And we're going to have like that show, you know, like when they try and like the woman has the wall between her and the three
Yeah.
men, you know, and she asks the questions and the guys have to, it's kind of like that. We'll have our own TV show and
And
we'll
do I
have
get
like
to turn around on
NDIS
the chair?
matchmaking.
Like, 'cause if there is a support worker out there watching this today, how do they get in touch with you if they would like to take the next step and open their business?
Well, my socials are a great place to start. So you can find me on LinkedIn at Connect My Community, or Phuong Barraclough is my profile. You could go to our website, which is connectmycommunity.com.au. I'm on Instagram and Facebook as well.
I'm in a
I love
situation
Instagram.
with it,
It's
I'll
my
be
favorite.
honest with you.
Yeah. Isn't that like the trendy saying, like slide into my...
So you're accessible pretty much to slide into DMs on multiple platforms, not TikTok.
Oh, dear. You know what?
Is there anything that I've missed in today's podcast that we have to talk about before we leave our audience?
Look, I feel like everyone's talking about at the moment in the compliance space, mandatory registration. Look, in my opinion, it is going to head that way. eventually every single provider that wants to access a single cent of NDIS money is going to have to be registered in one way or another. Now, what the process looks like is going to be completely different, I believe, because if they want 100% of providers from your sole trader support worker right up to your large disability organisation, then they're going to have much different process than what it is currently, because it's really unfair on the small provider to have to pay the amount that they do to go through registration at the moment compared to a large organisation having to pay that amount with no return on that cost at all. So if the government could maybe find a way to recognise or return some of that that investment to be registered as a positive thing rather than something that takes away from the viability of the business. And my last thing would be around the allied health controversy that was, around that. Look, I feel like there are so many different versions of that story, and depending on who you talk to around the space. But at the end of the day, it's about the participants. But at the end of the day, it's about the participants. And if they are getting the support that they need from the right people, then there is always a way for that to happen.
It's really well said.
And it doesn't always have to be NDIS. There are so many other community options, insurance options, funding models, think creatively, like talk to your community, talk to your, support network. And there's more than one way to get to the goal, if you know what I mean. So that's probably the other thing I just wanted to say. And just thank you for having me.
Why has it taken so long? I was like, silly Sarah, this should have been done quite early on. Because
don't worry about taking so long. We're both
your
busy
page for
people.
a very long time.
No, I was going to say I fangirl you. You're the one that I was like, oh my gosh, I love what this woman is about, and I want to share all her stuff to everyone that I can share it to. I was fangirling you, Sarah.
So we're at this pretty much at the end of the podcast. We both fangirl each other to the point that we're really happy. We didn't even really need to do a podcast. We probably just should have called each other.
Yeah. Look, I'm happy for you to slide into my DMs as much as you like. Any day and night, darling, and night as well.
Thank you so much. I got a lot. Thank you so much for today.
Hopefully not too much. I did yabber a bit.